All right, I've went ahead and started recording today's presentation, so you all can follow along at home. We're happy to have you all with us today, and welcome to Make Better Business Decisions with Analytics. I am going to be your host today. My name is Sarah Guest. This presentation is kind of a collaboration between Cyberlicious, our company, as well as Grow with Google. Grow with Google helps people all over the country grow their skills in business as well as their careers by offering all types of free digital skills trainings and tools. And today we're going to discuss how you can make more strategic business decisions with the insights that you all can gain from your Google Analytics account. So if anyone has any questions before we get started or any housekeeping, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask those questions before we get started. But if there are none, then we'll go ahead and move along. So if you have any questions before we get started, now's the time. Hi, Shirley, welcome. All right, I think that's a no on the questions. I'll try my best to monitor the chat. So if you have any questions that you have during today's presentation and you don't want to unmute to ask, feel free to ask them in the chat because there is no silly question. If you're thinking of something and you have a question, most likely someone else on today's webinar also has the same question. So please feel free to type any questions you might have in that chat, and I'll try to get to them as I'm able. All right. So, like I said, my name is Sarah Guest. My husband and I, Benjamin, are the co-founders of Cyberlicious. So we are a local digital marketing and advertising agency. We have offices in downtown St. Petersburg, and we handle everything from branding, web design, content creation, all the way to full-scale paid advertising campaigns for our clients. Our clients range from local startups to national brands and franchises. We have been hosting these digital marketing workshops for about 4 years now. I know Carrie's been to a few, so he's a returner. So welcome back, Carrie. We're happy to have you back. Pre-COVID, we would do these in our office downtown, but we've switched to the webinar platform now. And our goal with these workshops is to help bring knowledge and insights to business owners and just our local communities. And we're really excited. I'm really excited that you're all here with us today. So be sure to check in at Cyberlicious. You can find us across all platforms at Cyberlicious Inc. And you can use the hashtag Grow with Google, or you can use the hashtag Now That's Cyberlicious. This here is a picture of Ben up here in the front at one of our pre-COVID in-person workshops. We do these often over lunch or coffee chats in the morning, and we hope to get back in the office sometime soon. So thanks for joining us today, and let's go ahead and get started. So today we'll start with the basics of using Google Analytics to better drive business decisions. And during the first part of this course, we're going to discuss what data is and how we can use it to drive better business decisions. Then we'll go into the basics of setting up your Google Analytics account if you don't already have one set up, and how you can start collecting data on your users from your website. And then during the second part of this class, we'll review any questions you have that you can use to help understand the data about your customers. And then we'll also walk you through a few of the reports that you'll be able to see on the back end once you're in your analytics. And then keep in mind, this is a two-part series, so you all are in luck. Today is part 1, so you're not missing anything, but be sure to sign up for part 2 of this session, where we'll discuss exactly how to set up goals and event tracking in your analytics. We'll go over some higher level things in your analytics account, and I'll be sure to share that link for part 2, which will be held on Thursday, March 25th. So 2 weeks from today, I'll share that at the end of our workshop today. So this quote here on the screen basically serves to remind us all that getting data is not the problem anymore. It used to be that you had to pay for big data. You had to go and pay some big data mine company for data about your business or your customers. But now with the internet, we have big data and it's available to you for free. And if you're already using Google Analytics data on your web presence, is being collected right now as we speak. So Google's opportunity with analytics is to take all this data and make it manageable for business owners and people to interpret how visitors or users are interacting with your brand online on your website. But what we need to do is we need to find out how all of that data connects. We need to be able to identify patterns, themes, and anything within the data that can help us build on the context and better understand. So the ultimate goal is to provide actionable insights that you can use to either prove or disprove a hypothesis, right? But first, you need to understand what those insights are and how you should approach using an analytics platform as robust as Google Analytics. So you want to make sure that we're all looking at goals and that we're taking the goals that we have and interpreting what the data says in the reports to help us better understand what's happening. So today we're going to go over all of that. And I'm excited to share all this with you. So first, let's define insights. Does anyone here today feel comfortable either typing in the chat what you think an insight is, or if you want to unmute, go ahead and tell us your thoughts on what you think an insight might be. So insights help you create more effective business solutions and using the strategies that are informed by your real consumer truths. So what people are actually doing on your site, on your website, looking at that data is actually going to give us what's really happening. So we're not just having to go based off of our gut. And these decisions or this data that we get can help us build better brand strategies, better creative. You can even get ideas about new products or innovations within your business. But the trouble is that oftentimes the insights that we get are hard to pin down. You can ask 100 people the same question and you'll get 100 different answers, right? We've all heard that before. But one thing that is clear is that when businesses look to Google Analytics for help in finding insights, you're not just looking for data. Insights are based on data, but they are also novel, right? They're credible and they're actionable, enough for them to unlock all types of new opportunities for you in your business. So a great insight is often unexpected, but obvious. So an insight, to truly be an insight, it has to be able to inspire action and it must be useful. So how do we do that? So before we go any further, we're going to discuss a few terms or define a few terms that we're going to be using in today's session. So data is information that you obtain from users. So visitors, think of a user as a visitor. So the data that you get from those visitors could be on their demographics. For example, where they're located, what age group they are, what websites that they typically visit, what landing pages within your website that they actually visit. Analytics are patterns and trends that you discover within the data. So the analytics is how you actually make sense of everything and you uncover the meaningful trends. Insights are the value, the actionable value that you get from the data and the analytics. And insights should be actionable and prescriptive. So in other words, you know what you need to do next. So once you have an insight, you know that you need to do something. So here's an example. Let's assume that you have an e-commerce website. So e-commerce means that you sell something online. Data shows you that you had 1,500 visitors into the website within the past 30 days. So you know you've had 1,500 visits. The analytics show you that 30% accessed your site from a mobile device. So out of that 1,500 visits, 30% of them came from a mobile device, meaning their cell phone or a tablet. Insights then show you or reveal that these visitors using mobile devices are 60% more likely to convert, meaning they buy. So, what does that tell you for your e-commerce site? If 60% of people that are using mobile are buying more, what can you do with that data? What can you do with that insight? But many of us, we're new to data and analytics, so the reports are overwhelming. And we understand that here at Cyberlicious, and that's why we partner with Google to put on these workshops. So we're going to look at ways that you can use data to help make decisions instead of just relying on your gut instincts. And this will involve using different tools that you see to help you see patterns in your customer behavior or your user behavior. But before we dive in any further, we need to identify goals in general. So that way we can be better able to ask the right questions. So Google Analytics is a free tool, okay, that once you set it up, it provides you with all the data on your website and your visitors to understand how your customers make decisions based on the insights that you gain. So ideally, in a perfect world, our website leads the user from one page of useful information to the next page, to the next page, to the next page, where finally they actually convert, right? So convert means that they purchase. They add it to the cart, they check out, they give you their money. If you have an informational website, maybe you want them to download a PDF. If you are scheduling appointments, maybe you want the one goal could be that they're trying to, set up an appointment. So ideally, your website will guide that user through the process with helpful information that answers their questions until they finally convert. So convert means they actually do the goal. They take part in that. So building personalized experiences. So how do you personalize this data to guide those users through that process? And how you do that, it all starts with good data. And Google Analytics can help you to better understand the audience and the insights to their activities. So those audience activities that can give you better information and more strategic decisions to help you do that, to help you get more sales or get more conversions. So we want to make sure that you're spending time with your user data and your analytics from your site to help find opportunities that can then better customize the experiences for the users that can drive even more value. So what else can you do on your website? What other things can you offer that can provide these visitors with even more value? Analytics and insights will help you do that. You can also learn which search terms and what sources drive the most traffic. So for example, let's say you have a high bounce rate, meaning you have a lot of people that come into your website and then leave. So that's considered a bounce. So if someone has a high bounce rate, and there might be a misalignment between your visitors and the content of your website. Maybe they don't like the experience. Maybe they don't like the content that they see. Maybe they're not reading it fully. Maybe they're confused. Maybe we didn't answer their question. So all of this, the answers to these questions, you can use the data to get the real answers instead of just having to go based off of assumptions. You can also see demographic information for your most profitable customers. So how can you take the information that you're getting about what types of customers you make the most money off of, or book the most appointments, or download the most white papers, or PDFs, or just information? What users that do that the most, how can you design an even better experience for them? How can you build on that experience to make even more people convert? So rather than designing just one experience for everyone or just for the average user, you might want to look for specific groups of users, specific groups of visitors that might have different wants or needs or different pain points. Maybe there's a different problem, and maybe you want to address that in your website content. Analytics is also going to help you understand what content your audience is most interested in. Everyone says we should be blogging all the time. We should be writing lots of content. We should have videos up on our website. We should have all of these white papers available. But spending all of your time creating, that takes time and money for some of us to create that content. And you might be spending a lot of time and money, or both, on creating that content. But what if people are not engaging in it? What if the one thing that they're engaging with the most is something that's free? and doesn't take a whole lot of time. Wouldn't we want to invest more effort into that? So evaluating all of these different things, and then also looking at which channels drive the most conversions. So that means understand where your traffic comes from. Most people that visit your website do not type in cyberlicious.com. They do not type in soundbrandingideas.com. They usually go to Google and ask Google a question, right? Think about how the Google landing page. So if you just open up google.com, what does that page look like? Google's an ask engine, and many people just ask it a question. And then then Google filters the results of all of the information that's available to answer that question. From there, users can engage with your brand. Or maybe you're getting quite a bit of traffic from a social media channel. Maybe you're doing a lot of, marketing yourself or posting videos or information to either Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or YouTube. And maybe users are coming into your website or visiting your website by clicking on a link from one of those platforms. So all of that information, you're going to be able to figure out how to get to it, where to read it, where to see it all in today's workshop. And down at the bottom there's a quick tip. This is the URL, that g.co/analytics. That's where you all are going to go to set up your Google Analytics account. So to start collecting basic data from your website, first you're going to create or sign into your Google Analytics account. So if you already have an analytics account, you're going to go to that g.co analytics. And so you can either start for free or you can go in and sign into your analytics account. We do recommend that you have your business name at Gmail, because all of your Google information needs to be associated to an @Gmail account. So if your business is cupcakes and parties, you would want to at some point in your business maybe create a cupcakes and parties @gmail.com. Or in my instance, the name of my company is Cyberlicious. So I would want to create a Cyberlicious @gmail.com and use that email address to manage all of my Google Analytics and all of my Google properties. We have had some businesses that use their personal. So if you want to use your personal, for example, if I wanted to use my Sarah Guest @gmail.com, I could do that. If you're a solopreneur, that might work for you. If you have other people within your organization that are going to be viewing analytics or are going to need access, might be best to have that your business name @Gmail. So Carrie asked a question. Sarah, if you have two different website addresses, would you have both, or can one account have both analytics on it? So to answer your question quickly, you can add two different properties to one analytics account. And I can take that answer offline with you, Carrie, and work on that too. So the property represents your website or an app, right? So, and then analytics is a collection of all of the data points from that particular property. So most of you are going to be setting up a property for your website. Example, Carrie has 2 websites, so he might want to have one analytics account with 2 different properties. And yes, you can do that. So one of the most important steps in setting up your Google Analytics account is adding your tracking code so that Google can begin tracking data on your website. So once you create the property, creating a property within your analytics account will then create a Google Analytics ID. This ID is what you're going to use to embed into the back end of your website. And at the end of the initial setup, you're automatically taking to the tracking ID section of your analytics property. And you can see that right here, circled and then highlighted big and blue on the right-hand side of your screen. And then for future reference, to find the tracking code, once you're in the analytics dashboard on the back end, you're going to click on the admin. So it'll be in that admin section. So once you select an account from the menu in the account column, then you're going to select a property from the menu in the property column. And this will most likely be your website. So the property is going to be associated with your website. Under property, you're going to click tracking info and then tracking code. And your tracking ID will be displayed at the top of the page. And then you will then need to locate your specific website. So then you'll need to go to your website and paste that tracking ID code where it needs to go. So this way, the tracking ID within analytics, as well as the tracking ID that's on the back end of your website, so in the admin area of your website, needs to match. And that's how all of the reporting is going to make sure that everything's reporting correctly. If you use a content management site, for example, if you use Squarespace or Wix, you'll likely find the place to paste your ID, your tracking ID, within the website's admin settings. If you're using an open source CMS, something like WordPress, or you've hired a website developer, you may need to use some code and paste that code as well as the tracking ID in a global, it's also called the global site tag, to the header of each page of your website. And there's instructions on all of that. You can ask Google, and I'd be happy to provide any of those instructions to any of you that are challenged with trying to set this up on your own. You can always email me after the session, and I'd be happy to help you out in any way I can. And then you can access all of your Google Analytics accounts from either a desktop or your mobile device. Google Analytics does have an app in the iTunes App Store as well as the Google Play Store. So whether you're Android or Apple, you can access that Google Analytics app and be able to see what's happening with your website in your analytics real time anywhere you are. Pretty cool. So now that you know how to set up your analytics account, we're going to dive into what you can learn from these new insights. So first, I want to introduce you to Eva and Ricky. Eva and Ricky are small business owners, and they sell apparel through an online store. Up until now, Eva and Ricky have been making most of their big decisions for their e-commerce store from either their own gut instincts or just by what we call ad hoc feedback from existing and past customers, meaning that 5 customers tell them this, 6 customers tell them this, and they just take those that input from their customers and base their decisions off of those things and their gut. So they've decided to set up Google Analytics to get a better understanding of what is and what is not working on their online retail store. That way they can make better strategic business decisions. Today, we're going to use the Google Merchandise Store Analytics account as a demo account to represent Eva and Ricky's e-commerce store. And you all are going to be able to access that demo account. I'll be happy to share that URL with all of you. I'll paste that in the chat too. All right. Let me just get it to copy here. All right. We'll get that analytics demo account to you later on as we move along. So sometimes when you're making decisions on gut instincts, it works great, right? You run an ad, you put a newspaper ad, you post some things on social media, all of a sudden the phone is ringing. Everything's great. You're selling tons of product. But usually it's always better to base any decision that you make for your business on actions and data, because decisions you could even make better decisions. Think about how much better your decisions or your business strategies could be if data supported them. And then you got even better results than going off of just your gut. So for example, Eva and Ricky, let's talk about them. They would run an experiment with a new t-shirt design, and they would immediately add that new design to their website banner without collecting any data from their audience on the need for or the need or the desire of the customers for those new designs. So here they are investing time in designing all these new t-shirts, adding them to the banner, but they are not sure if their customers really want that. They're just thinking they do. So here we've included on the right-hand side, you've got an image of the 3 new t-shirts that are on the banner from their merchandise store. When sales were down for one particular item, they'd put it on sale. So instead of cutting prices when sales were down, Maybe they could have improved visibility by advertising, or maybe they could have tried a different type of promotion. Maybe they could have just offered 10% off to any new customer, right? Instead of slashing prices because sales were down. So these are ways that data can actually prove your assumptions. When Eva and Ricky first started their e-commerce business, they assumed, right? They just went off of data and assumed that their target audience would primarily be females, women, ages 35 to 44 in that age range. And they used that assumption to drive all their marketing initiatives and all of their advertising without collecting any data. That was just what they assumed based on their own research. So for your own business or website, here's how we can recommend that you all get started. So rather than making assumptions like Eva and Ricky, you should maybe start out by setting some goals. So the first thing I want you all to start thinking about is, what are the customer actions on your website that you care about the most? So everyone take a minute and just think about that. What is it that when someone comes to your website, what is the end goal? What do you want them to do? What outcomes do you want? What do you want to improve? So one example could be that maybe you just want more traffic. Maybe you're not getting a lot of visits when you're looking at your analytics. Maybe you're only getting 10 visitors a week. Maybe you want more website traffic. So that could be a goal, right? So the next thing I want you to start thinking about is, what questions do you need to ask? What information do you need to know in order to achieve your goals? So for example, if you want to increase website traffic, one answer you might need to know is, well, on average, how many website visitors am I getting on a weekly or monthly basis? So here's a quick tip. The questions that we ask about offline advertising campaigns often apply to your online marketing and advertising too. There's a lot of talk about digital marketing, and I wish we would get rid of the word digital, because it's all just marketing. It's just so happens that we are now in the digital realm, right? So third, you want to determine which tools and reports can help you get the answers to those questions. So let's start with goals. We're going to dive a little deeper. Start with the outcome that you want. Remember, what is it that a visitor should do when they come to your website? What do you want them? What do you want to happen? What are you trying to achieve? Everything that you do for your branding, for your marketing, for your advertising, for your social media should be driven to support your goals. There's lots and lots of different types of goals. So when you're thinking about goals, I want you to keep in mind this word, SMART. Okay? So all of your goals need to have all of these components in them. So this framework of creating a SMART goal, okay, is going to help make sure that your goal can be achieved and can be supported by data. So, for example, if we go back to the example of increasing your website traffic, you're only getting 10 visitors a week. So you want to increase that, and you now want to set a goal for the next month of having maybe 50 visitors every week. So you're going to move from 40 visits a month to 200 visitors a month. But is that goal meaningful? So before we go any further, let's go how we can define this in our SMART goal framework. So is increasing my website traffic to 40 visitors a week, is it specific, right? Is it detailed? Can I track this? How am I going to measure this? How will I know when I've accomplished it, right? So I think it's specific enough. I want to increase from 10 visits to 40 visits. That's specific. Is it measurable? Yes, because I can see that in the data. Is it realistically attainable? Do I think that I could do that? Is it realistic to have that amount of increase? Will this goal help me reach other goals within my business? Is it relevant? And I think that is, right? If I'm only getting 10 visitors to my e-commerce store, or to my appointment booking website, or to download information so I can add emails to my email list, yes, that's relevant, right? I want to go from getting 10 visits to 40 visits. Because over time, the more visitors that I have to my website, hopefully I'm going to book more appointments. I'm going to gather more emails and add more people interested in my product or service to my email list. Or if I have an e-commerce store, I'm going to sell more product, right? More visitors, more product, more foot traffic, more foot traffic, more sales. And then the last one is it time sensitive, right? Do you have a time frame that you want to achieve this goal within? So within the next 30 days, I want to increase my website traffic by 40%, 50%, 75% in order to X, Y, or Z. So let's go back to Eva and Ricky. So what were their goals, right? What did they decide to do? So Eva and Ricky, they set a goal for their e-commerce store to decrease shopping cart abandonment. So shopping cart abandonment basically means that you visit a website, you add items to your cart, and then your kids need a snack, or the phone rings, or you get an important text message, or someone's at the door, and you walk away, and you never go back to check out. So I've added items to my cart, and then I abandoned it. So they had the goal to decrease shopping cart abandonment by 60%. They used analytics to find out how many users were actually adding items to their cart over a period of time. And then they compared that number to the total number of transactions during that same time period to measure the cart abandonment rate. And as time went on, they made modifications to the checkout process so that way they could decrease the percentage of users that were walking away without checking out. You may find that by doing something like this, for anyone here that does have an e-commerce store, you may find that your checkout process is too lengthy, or there might be a step in your process that gets people discouraged from moving forward. I don't know about you, but if I have to create an account for every time I check out, oftentimes I choose to check out as a guest. So that way I'm not having to enter in as much information. So think about that and how that could relate to what's happening with Eva and Ricky. With each change that Eva and Ricky made, they reviewed the numbers to see the effect. And ultimately, they were able to drive cart abandonment rate down to 45%. So pretty good. Different sites are going to have different goals, right? So some of us, like I talked about earlier, are going to have an e-commerce store where we're looking for online orders. Others of us are looking for leads. We're in lead generation. We're looking for emails. Some of us might be looking for engagement, like booking appointments. So keep those things in mind when you're trying to set out goals. So what are your own goals? So I'd like for all of you to take a few minutes. It is 1:35. So take the next about 2 minutes and think about what your own goals are. There's some ideas on the right-hand side of the page here about what your goals might be. If you want to write them down, do it now since you're in the moment versus having to go back and think about it afterwards. But take a minute and write them down. If you did receive the handout, it does talk a little bit about goals also in those handouts, in the 2-page handout versus the slides. And if anyone wants to share their goal in the chat, feel free to do that, and I'll share it with the group. Or if you want to unmute yourself, you can, and share your goal with us. Or maybe you don't know a goal. Maybe you need support. We're here to support you. We've got about 9 or 10 people on our call today with us, so feel free if you have a question about how to write a goal or what your goal should be, post it in the chat. And if you can also send it to me privately too, if you prefer.
This is Shirley. Hello, everyone. I guess my goal is to drive a look, I guess, people to my website. I have a pop-up. I do like mostly excuse me, consulting for customer service aspect, and I just created a pop-up, I guess, where people who watch my YouTube channel can can have like a assessment, like a free assessment. So I created the pop-up, but I just now kind of listening to you guys. I probably should have it in multiple places on my website and not just the pop-up, just in case people do X out of it. I don't know why I didn't think about that earlier, but I think just for me, it's just really to get people to the website. But once I do have them there, I should have the same information on different pages and throughout the website.
Yeah, and just keep tracking that. Just keep tracking
Yeah.
that. Great idea to think about having people that watch your YouTube channel say, hey, come visit my website. That's a great way to drive more visitors to your website. Because I don't know about many of us, but some of us get stuck in the autoplay of YouTube where the next videos just keep popping up and then you're there for a few hours. Carrie has a goal: website visitors complete the online submission form and questionnaire. So that's one of the goals. So if you were right, so that's the goal for the website. But now if you wanted to create a goal to improve that, think about how you would measure that, Carrie, and what data you would use to measure that. Kim has a goal here, and she says, the goal for our magazine is to increase page views. And once we have someone on their website, they're currently getting around 1.5 per user. And they had 2.4 million users last year. So the goal for Kim's website, they have a magazine. So once I arrive to her magazine's website, they want the visitors to bounce around, to stay on the website longer, to engage with content longer every session. So if one of your goals is to increase landing pages that people are visiting, how will you track that? What landing pages will you send them to? How will you get them from one page, one article in the magazine to the next article in the magazine? And how can you test that? Maybe your call to action needs to be different. Maybe you may also be interested in these other articles. Or maybe you might find that they like to link back and forth through anchor text. And that might be another good way. But those are all different variables or different tests that you can do to help you kind of think about what your goals are. So great goals, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing. So for current business owners, right, you're going to think about the existing goals that you already have for your website. The ones that you want to monitor and measure with Google Analytics. And for those of you that don't have an analytics account yet, or maybe you don't even have a website, what purpose do you think the website will serve? What conversion goals do you have based on the actions that you'd like your visitors to take? So Kim has data right now from her magazine saying they have 2.4 million users. And on average, those users visit 1.5 pages per user. So she already has some goals and some data to support her current goal. So writing those things down on paper, right, to help you in your mastermind session of what your goals are, helping you write them down. Keep in mind that your website goals can become even more important if your primary business operations have moved to the online space. So for example, Kim, who has a magazine, I'm not sure if her magazine is distributed in print or if it's just online, but that's one great example of how many of our offline goals might have had to shift to an online or virtual platform. And a magazine is a great example. So thanks for joining us today and being the poster child for moving online to digital for us today, Kim. Thank you. So now that you've defined what your goals are, now you want to consider what questions you're going to ask to meet them. Okay, so let's look at a few examples of questions that you can ask to help you get the answers that you need. So the framework that you see right here on the screen basically represents stages of the business relationship that you have with your consumers, with your customers, with your visitors. you ask questions and you use answers to move customers through these different stages, right? So first off, reach, right? Reach customers with methods like advertising, right? Organic search. They watch you on YouTube. You reach them on social media. Maybe you have an offline promotion. Maybe you are handing out cards to people. So how do you reach people? So ask that question. How do you reach them? Who are they? And how do you reach them? After that, now they're at your website, right? You've reached them. They're there. They're on your website. How do you engage them? Remember how I said Google is an ask engine? We ask Google questions and then we find answers. So if I get to your website, are you answering my question? Can I find what I'm looking for easily? Remember, nobody wants to read thousands of words anymore. We're looking for engaging content. That can simply be a great catchy title, right? Or a pretty image that describes what your story might be about. And then that loads into your magazine information or your magazine article. Maybe changing the way you lay out your content on the page could help engage them better. Keep in mind that people want to find things easily when they're looking for an answer. The next thing I want you to think about is conversions, the goal, right? So what's the goal? Can you help visitors complete important actions on your website? So for example, they might buy a t-shirt or they might submit a form answering a question about a bulk order, or they might sign up for a newsletter, right? Or maybe they visit more landing pages, more website pages, more magazine articles within your website. So are they doing that? Are they converting? And then ultimately, you want to sustain these visitors long term, right? It's a lot easier for everyone that is already a current customer to keep them loyal, right? Than it is to try to find new customers all the time. So keep in mind that you want to also create a relationship to turn people into loyal customers and keep bringing them back. So just to recap, reach questions, ask, how do my customers find me? Engage questions, ask, what do they look at and engage with? Convert questions, ask, do visitors become customers? And then sustain questions, ask, do my customers return? And we're going to revisit these questions as we keep diving deeper into the reports. So now you have your goals, you've talked about the questions that you need to ask. Now let's look at the tools that you have to help you answer these questions. So where do I go in analytics to view the answers and get help with my goals and answering these questions? So I talked a little bit about how to set up your Google Analytics account. So here is a screenshot of what the reports look like when you log in. There's lots and lots of reports within Google Analytics. Don't get too overwhelmed. Let's focus on a few things just at one time. I'm just going to go one by one here. So when you log in, this is a home page. The home page gives you kind of a summary of what you're looking at. All of these cards in your dashboard show you information like the overall traffic and conversions, users, revenue, conversion rates, sessions, and you can click on any one of those numbers, any one of those metrics to change the graph that you see, okay? The number of users on your site right now is also displayed at the top, and it also tells you which pages are getting the most views. So right at the middle there of that blue box, top active pages and active users right now. That's your real-time reporting. It also gives you information about your overall conversion rate, the channels by which you acquire users. So how do you acquire users? What traffic channels? That's that bar graph that you see down at the lower left-hand corner. You also get information about your site visitors by geographic location. So maybe you only sell products in the St. Pete area, but you might find that when you look at this information of this graph of sessions, right, and you analyze it by state or by zip code, you might find that you have visitors in other areas that are opportunity. And then lastly, you also get in this overview section a users by time of day. And this image here of the sessions by country, you can change that to zip code or area or states, and it will give you that information also, because everyone's target area is a little different. Then you can also create custom dashboards in Google Analytics, right? So this is your main dashboard, but you can create a custom dashboard, and that custom dashboard allows you to have a collection of different widgets that give you an overview of the reports and the metrics that you care about most, right? So you can set up which information you want to be able to see quickly when you first log in. And you can add those little widgets to the customization screen. And basically a widget is like a mini report that displays data in a number of different presentation styles, including simple numbers or tables or charts. You can pick how you want it to appear for you, what works for you. And then once you create that custom dashboard, you can share it with other people on your team or within your organization. As you might have content creators or you that are interested in one type of information, and you might have another area of your team that's interested in cart abandonment. So there's all different types of ways to set up your Google Analytics dashboards. Oh, did I skip a slide? No. Okay. So now that you've had a chance to review the main dashboard, we're going to review the different types of insights that are available within analytics. So we know, like I said, that Google Analytics is complex, it's daunting. There's so many different reports to look at. So what do I know is important, right? What is it that I really want to spend my time looking at? So this is a quick overview of the categories and then how you can mix and match different filters to produce reports. So these categories will match the types of reports that you see to the left of your home dashboard. So real time shows you the impact of marketing efforts in real time. Immediately and continuously, you can monitor the effects of the campaigns. So let's say you're running for example, for real time, let's say that you're running a television commercial and it airs from 6 p.m. It airs during the Super Bowl, okay? Maybe you want to see real-time reporting during that time of what's happening on your website during the Super Bowl when those ads are running, okay? So that could be a good example of real time. Maybe you're having a commercial on the radio, or maybe you're giving a podcast live, or maybe you're appearing on a segment on a news station. So real-time reports would be really beneficial during those scenarios. Audience reports provide insights into the characteristics of your users, such as what age they are, where do they live, what are they interested in, what language do they speak, what are the behaviors that they do when they get to your website, what devices or technology are they using to access your website. So those are your audience reports. Up next is acquisition. So where do visitors come from? How do you acquire them? Okay, and this provides you a window into the acquisition behavior conversion cycle, right? So we want to acquire visitors, we want to follow their behavior, see what they do, and then we want them to convert. So we call that ABC, acquisition behavior conversion. Basically, how you acquire them and how they convert. How do you find patterns between those? Behavior reports tell you how the behavior varies between the new users and returning users. So people that come to your website 5, 6, 12 times are going to behave a little bit differently than someone who's brand new. And it's important to note that and to find patterns in those behaviors. And then lastly is conversion reports. A conversion, again, is the completion of any activity that's important to the success of your business. For example, signing up for a newsletter, making a purchase, downloading a PDF. All of those can be seen as conversions. And you can use all of these reports to see how all of the different channels work together to create sales. And when I say channels, I mean traffic channels, meaning you have visitors coming in from YouTube. Not everybody comes in. Remember, I said not everybody types in cyberlicious.com. That would be a direct search. Some of them come in through Facebook or through a Google search or through an advertisement or maybe through a backlink that you have somewhere. So those are all things to keep in mind. So here is a quick overview of a real-time report. This real-time report shows you the impact of marketing and efforts in real time, immediately, continuously, like I said about the advertisements during the Super Bowl. You can also, from this report, determine if new content that you just put up is being viewed. You can determine if a one-day promotion drives traffic and which pages a visitor views during that one-day promo. You can also monitor the effects on your site traffic from a blog or a social media post. So let's say you do a big campaign on social media and you do a big post during the day. Maybe you post multiple times throughout the day because you're prepping for some big event that you have coming up. How much traffic are those social media posts driving to your website? And then you can also monitor goal completions in real time as you're testing site changes. So if we think back to Eva and Ricky's business, they may have had the benefit of media coverage, right? So if they had media coverage about their apparel store, they can see, like I said earlier, how much traffic that media coverage is driving, and if they see any spikes in visits at any particular time. Information, all this information allows Eva and Ricky to prep the site for possible traffic or potential orders. Maybe they're going to notice that, hey, when we run one of these media advertisements or when we're seen on a news channel, the traffic to our website spikes within the first 3 hours, right? So maybe they want to do something special during that 3-hour time window of when that advertisement or when that news story runs, so that way they can engage users that are visiting at that moment when they're seeing the advertisement. So from the beginning of their business, Eva and Ricky used real-time traffic reports to measure the spike in traffic as that media coverage ran. But then as they started to collect historical data, they were able to compare the number of orders that are received at any given time to when those ads are running or when that media exposure is happening. So pretty powerful things that can help Eva and Ricky improve their sales and increase goals and conversions for their business. And now they're better able to predict how many orders they might receive, when traffic spikes, when to expect or anticipate a traffic spike based on media releases or radio appearances, just by using this real-time overview report. So let's go back to those questions that we suggested that you ask earlier, right, to better understand your data. So we'll start with reach. So think of reach as the people you want to visit your website and become your customers. So reach questions help you understand the brand recognition and awareness and how people find you, right? Is your brand recognizable? Do people engage with it? And if we go back to Eva and Ricky, one of their goals was to increase their online orders by 10%. So one question that they might ask is, how do people find us online? And if customers can't find my business, then they can't place online orders, right? So think about other reach questions that Eva and Ricky might ask. So what are some other things that they might ask? Do they have the correct name, address, and phone number for their business published online? You'd be surprised how many businesses move offices or change their phone number and they don't update every online directory or listing where their website is found. They only update their website, but they don't update any of the other information that's surfing out there on the internet land about their brand or their business. So that's important, right? So another question about reach, another reach question is the website easy to remember and type in? So if you're doing a lot of face-to-face marketing, right? If you're meeting people face-to-face and you're driving traffic by just telling them, oh, my website is go to this URL by name.com, right? That's a lot of words to remember. Who's going to go home and remember that? You want your URL or your domain name to be easy to remember. Ours is Cyberlicious, stpete.com, right? bestlogodesigns.com. Those are things that are easy to remember. How many times have you met someone or engaged with someone or engaged with a business that has a really difficult name to remember? Maybe it has a hyphen in it. Those sometimes get tricky. So think about that when you're thinking about reach questions. Also, it goes beyond just, how do people find you? It has to be memorable. It has to be easy. If you have an email newsletter, and I get your email newsletter, do people open it? Do they read it? Do they click through it? That's another way to reach customers, right? If they click on that email newsletter, maybe they come back to your website and they take action on your website. So audience reports, that's the next group of reports. We've gone over the home, the customization, the real-time. Up next, we're going to go over audience reports. And these reports provide insight into who your audience is. So you're going to get information about demographics, interests, geography, language, behavior, technology, and all the different types of devices that they get. You'll also get benchmarking data, which is pretty cool because that compares your business and its industry to other businesses similar to yours within the same industry. I often have found, and we found in our business, when we work with clients, that business owners often have a preconceived notion about who their audience is. But once they sit down and really analyze the data and start using the data, their target demographic and who they think is their target customer changes. Think about Eva and Ricky. Remember we said how they initially assumed that their target audience was females ages 35 to 44. But if you look at this report, so this is a report of Eva and Ricky's analytics here that we're looking at, you can see in this report, 35 to 44 only takes up about 15, 17% of their users and their visitors. But the age group of 25 to 34, right? And 39% are male. They're not all female. 60% is male. So if you're going on the notion that 100% are female, you're missing out on almost, 40% of traffic, 39% of traffic that you could be addressing by appealing to male users. And they can use this information, again, to just make better decisions about their content and their marketing and what they're doing to help drive traffic and to increase conversions. So how does Google determine demographic information? So demographic information is collected from users when they're signed into their Google account. So all of us that have a Google account, or if you use Google, when you open up that Google account, it derives your location or the settings that you have set up within your Chrome or your Google to track you and to get information about your user behaviors. Okay. And you can see that information reported back to you because all of us opt into Google's terms and conditions when we use Google and visit websites. Oh, here we go. Sorry. But there it pointed out where the demographics and what they noted in their findings when Eva and Ricky actually looked at the data and how their assumptions changed on who their target audience was. So acquisition reports, that's the next group of reports that we're going to get into today. So acquisition reports provide a window on the user's acquisition, behavior, and conversion. Okay, that ABC, basically, how do you get those users to your site, and what behaviors do they take, and then do they convert? So you can see where site traffic comes from and how different channels perform. Eva and Ricky use these reports to find out how people were discovering their online store. Were they finding them from search? What they found was that, look, 57.9% are finding them through an organic search. They're not coming in directly, meaning that they type in Eva and Ricky's apparel.com. Only 16% are finding them that way. So they can see all the different sources of traffic to their website, including organic search, social media, and paid advertising. They can then use this information to drive site content and overall strategy on the content of the information, right? Of the images, of the videos, anything that's on their website, they can use this information to help drive those decisions and improving their advertising or anything else that they're doing either online and offline. A lot of times these insights that you're getting can cross over between online and offline. So now we're going to talk about engagement, right? So we've talked about how visitors come in, and we've talked a little bit about where they go in your website. So now let's talk a little bit more about engagement. What do they do? What do they discover once they are on your site? Do they navigate to more than one page? Do they stay on the page? Do they watch your videos? How long do they watch? Do they download your PDF? So when you're thinking about engage questions, and we're thinking about Eva and Ricky specifically, let's think about, can people easily find Eva and Ricky's products? Do they create an account at checkout? Do they download coupons, right? So those are specific questions for Eva and Ricky, but you can use the questions here that you see on the screen to kind of help guide your questions that you're asking when you're thinking about how can you engage customers. The next report we're going to show you here is the behavior flow chart. This behavior flow chart helps you visualize and just see the path that users travel from one page or an event to the next. So if you're trying to see which pages people interact with most or how they move from one article to the next, you can go through this here and get information about that, about how they flow. If we're looking at Eva and Ricky's report here, they use this behavior flow chart to guide them through changes to the merchandise store that could affect their conversion funnel. And this gives them a great view to see why people are falling off and why maybe they're not adding those items to, or maybe they're not fully following through with the checkout process. We're going over a little in time. Anyone that has to check out, I understand, and we'll get you the video chat once we wrap up. So we're going to look at conversion insights next. So those conversion insights are the ones that turn into paying customers, right? Ones that book an appointment. So how or if, right, does that happen? How does that happen? So once people find you online, do they take further action? Do they buy? Do they sign up? Do they schedule? So Eva and Ricky asked, how many online orders did we receive last month? Right? So they can look at that. And then they can also think about convert questions like, is it easy to order? What social media channels drove the most sales, right? Was it our Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest? What coupon codes generated the most sales? And when they do that, they're going to look at these conversion reports. And their conversion report is a conversion, right? It's a completion. It means that they took that action. Eva and Ricky used these reports quite a bit when they were working on their store. And they wanted to make sure that they weren't just guessing. So you can grab a report for a recent period. Up here in the top right-hand corner, you'll see this date frame is January 1st to May 14th. So always make sure that you're looking at that date range. And then you can compare different date ranges, right, too. So you can see conversions over time and what's been happening and see how much revenue you're generating and if people are actually engaging and buying. So if we go back to Eva and Ricky, they started offering video messages to customers. So this is something that they started that was new. And they allowed customers to upload a quick little video message for a gift. So if I bought a t-shirt or something that was intended to be a gift, I could upload a quick little video, and then that video would either be texted or emailed to the person that receives the gift. And this was a cool way to kind of add a personal touch to the gift giver because it could come from you and have your voice. But one thing that they didn't consider was that it offers an extra step at checkout. So when they added that extra step at checkout, this report would have shown them that the conversions actually went down, right, during that time frame where that was available. And if they noted that, then maybe they would have taken a step back and said, hey, well, maybe we don't want to make that mandatory. Maybe we want to allow people to skip over that. You don't have to upload a video if they don't want to. And that could have been something that they could have insights or information that they gathered from this conversion report. So other conversions that you can measure, like we talked about, are newsletters, form submissions, appointments, orders completed. And then anytime you add a new feature, you want to just make sure that you're measuring that and adjusting accordingly. So the last thing in those list of questions and where you get the answers to it is sustain. So sustain is, how do you turn people into loyal customers who engage with your business and keep coming back? To meet Eva and Ricky's goals for their store, they said, what are people saying about my business online? What are the reviews, right? Other questions that they could have asked about how they sustain customers is, what color shirts, right, do their customers want to see? So maybe they could have added a form, or maybe they could have asked a question in an email response or on a receipt that says, what color shirt do we not have that maybe you want? And that's a way to get people to come back. Do you give people a reason to return? Do they have a reason to come back? Is there a new article? Is there a new song? Is there a new blog post? If they ask you a question, do you answer quickly? And all of that information, right, within your audience can be found in your behavior reports when you're comparing new versus returning customers. So when you're asking all these questions about how can I get people to come back, you're going to want to look at the behavior reports and compare new versus returning. So if Eva and Ricky see that new visitors to their store are spending more time on the site, they may decide to add an incentive. So new users might get a pop-up with a coupon, but returning users do not. And so new users can get a coupon off of their next purchase or off of their first purchase. And all of this data and insight continues to just help you get people to keep coming back by analyzing the data of what happens once you make those changes, or those changes to the site. So here you can see that when they looked at new visitors versus returning visitors, the data here shows that the returning visitors for Eva and Ricky weren't quite as high. So what did they learn? What did Eva and Ricky learn? They learned that by using analytics, most of their gut instincts that drove many of their business decisions were incorrect. Their top audience is 25 to 34. Their top audience is 25 to 34-year-old males, not 35 to 44-year-old females, as they had previously expected. They also discovered that most of their traffic is coming from organic search, not their paid advertising. And then they also discovered that they were able to see most of the purchases were coming from brand new customers and not first-time visitors. So how can they make better business decisions? What can they do based on what they learned in analytics, right? So if they discovered that their website's top audience is 25 to 34-year-old males, and originally it was females in a higher age group, they might need to change their creative. Maybe the imagery or the language or the words that are being used on their website are more appealing to females in an older age range than they are to males in a lower age range. So that could be one thing. They might also want to change their ad creative, right? Their advertising. They might want to update their advertising creative to make better changes. And all this data can help them, get better sales. They might also know that a product that needs to be changed. If they change a product line, they can better tailor their merchandise to males in that target demographic. So they might need to have product changes. They might need to understand how people are actually coming in from organic search. What are the search queries? What are people actually typing into that ask engine on Google to get to their website? And they might want to review that and adjust their ad queries if they're running paid advertising, or maybe even adjust their landing page content. And then lastly, they learned that most of their paying customers are new visitors. So if they offer a coupon to a new visitor, maybe that would be more incentive to buy. So as you can see from this, Eva and Ricky kind of example, there's a lot to learn in your audience, and a lot to learn from analytics on how to make better business decisions just from implementing some of the strategies we talked about here with Google Analytics. So the next steps and resources, we've covered a lot of information today. And on your handout, that 2-page handout, you all should have received in an email. On that handout are additional resources that includes the Google Analytics demo account, as well as a link to the Google Skill Shop where you can take other classes about Google Analytics that are more in depth. And other Google tools are all listed on that handout. So what do you do from here, right? So right now, I want you all to think about your goals, outline your goals. Remember to use that SMART goal framework. Identify any of the questions that you need to ask to reach, engage, right? Attract all those customers, attain them, and turn them into, sustain them into lifelong customers that keep coming back. Reach, engage, convert, and sustain. Remember those questions. And then seek different reports that can help you answer those questions, make sure you're measuring, and then take action. Be sure that you all sign up for part 2 of this series. It's going to be on Thursday, March 25th. And in part 2, we're going to go a little bit more in depth into how to actually set up the goals within the back end of your Google Analytics. Also, we're going to talk about event tracking, dimensions, and segments, and how you can utilize some of those higher level features within Google Analytics to better understand your audience and your data. You can register on our website at cyberlicious.com. Just go to digital marketing or cyberliciousinc.com, and you can go to digital marketing events and workshops for more information. I'll be happy to stay on the line for about another 5 or 10 minutes if anyone has any questions. But thanks again for attending, and look out for an email from me with a follow-up survey as well as the live recording of this event. So thanks again.
Hello, hi, I have a question. Thank you very much, Sarah. The information was definitely helpful. I started listening, I would say a little bit later, but because I use GoDaddy when I created my website, and it does have the analytics page. I think it does. I haven't really looked at it much. But so you're saying that anybody who has like a website builder can still utilize the Google Analytics by just putting in the thing? Okay.
Yes, the tracking code, exactly. So
okay.
Once you create your Google Analytics account for your at gmail.com, right? Once you create an account, then you're going to want to link that account to the property of your website, and it's going to give you that property and a tracking code. Okay. And then what you'll do is you'll go back to GoDaddy's website builder where you built your website, and just use the documentation from GoDaddy's website builder on where to put the analytics tracking code. And that can also often be just as simple as just typing in a Google search, where do I add the Google Analytics tracking code to my GoDaddy website builder website? Okay. Just ask Google, and it should be able to tell you. Otherwise, GoDaddy's support is always your friend too.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else have any other questions? All right.
Hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
It's Lisa. I have a quick question, and thank you for everything was very good and helpful. I haven't done my website yet.
Okay.
But I just wanted to know, how do you search for words that are popular? Like if you want to embed those in or use them to identify some items, how do you search for those popular words?
Absolutely. So one thing you can use is you can just go to Google and type in your question. So for example, Lisa, tell me, what is your product or your service, or what problem are you solving for your visitors?
It's like clothing, and it's tranquil clothing and different things like that that are kind of, helping you be stress-free, relaxed, that kind of thing.
So what I would start out by doing is pretend that you're a customer. It's hard to do as a business owner, but think of yourself as a customer. If I was a customer, what would I go to look for? I would look for comfortable clothing, that's not restrictive, least restrictive, right? At leisure wear, maybe. Some of those target words or phrases, doesn't have to be one word. Remember, Google is an ask engine. People ask it questions. So just type in some of those things. Or if you've done any research on your top 5 competitors, you can also go to your competitors' websites. And see what are some, just look at their websites, see what their websites are doing, and see some of maybe the buzzwords, if any of those jump out at you. And when you type those buzzwords or those questions into Google search, you'll see all different types of results. And then you'll also see a section within the Google box that says people also ask, and there'll be other suggestions there. So that's one way that you can do it, is just by pretending that you're a customer and using google.com as your friend, or you can use Google's keyword planner. And you can just find out if you just Google keyword planner, and you should be able to direct you to the keyword planner, and you can look there and you can get information about how many times those particular words or phrases or questions are asked. And it will also give you a report on other suggestions that might fall within that same niche or category.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I sign up for your next one as well. So, and you're going to send us that link to do that?
Yes, I will follow up our email, or I will follow up most likely tomorrow with everyone with the link to the recording, as well as a short survey, and then a link to register for our next event, which is part 2, where we'll dive a little bit deeper into analytics. But on our website at cyberliciousinc.com, INC for Inc. You can find digital marketing events, workshops, and seminars, and you can see a whole list of everything that we've got on deck, and just mark your calendar for that. Or if you registered for today's event on the Google's website, within the Grow with Google community, we have them listed there as well. So there's 2 options to register.
Okay, because that's what I did, was the Google one. Okay, cyberliciousinc.com. Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, and yes, have a great day. Thanks so much for coming, Lisa.
You too. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.